we're headed into now our second series of the evening. Welcome back, everyone, to the SSL premiere. It is going to be Deer versus Stats, the Protoss versus Protoss. So we had one ZVZ, now we're going into the PvP. We got a TVT later tonight. It's the mirror evening. We have two other non-mirrors as well, but this is going to be a pretty interesting one. You have to give the edge to Stats, definitely, but Deer is stepped it up a bit.
I think that's the guy we voted for. I'm almost 100% sure. Deer, he definitely is looking better overall. Let me just take a look. He was able to win his matchup last week up against Maru, that is. But again, Maru, he's been, you know, kind of hit or miss a little bit. So Deer, though, he has taken out some strong opponents, and I feel like he will be a formidable opponent for Stats.
Kind of odd to see how few times these two players have played against each other, given they're both Protoss players, and we often see mirror matchups in Pro League on Protoss favored maps, for example. But Legacy of the Void 6 and 9 in favor of Stats, and we'll see if he can make it 10 and 6 here as he takes this win. We'll find out. Deer, though, I feel like has stepped it up a lot. Had a pretty decent run through Challenger, the promotion series, of course, in Fastlane. Took the 2-1 over Maru, which shocked a lot of fans, but it feels like Maru's very aggressive style is being figured out by many Protosses right now. We'll wonder, you know, we're all wondering if Classic will be able to defeat him tonight as well. That was one of the big predictions. You and I very strongly believe Classic will take that series, but that's the last series of the evening.
Definitely one to look forward to, but first we got to get through this PvP. Deer looking pretty good. Very happy in the booth, actually talking a bit with Stats.
Stats as well, a big grin on his face, so definitely both of them looking forward to this one. Remember, Stats, of course, did end up losing to Dark in Season 1, but did take the GSL Championship, no longer defending, as that title now belongs to Gumiho, who after 7 years of StarCraft 2 Pro Gaming finally took his GSL title.
So Deer is saying, like, oh, please go easy on me. I want to get 2 wins in a row. But Stats is like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna beat you. So both these guys sitting pretty at 1-0 so far. Stats was able to defeat his Splice brother-in-arms, Solar. So feeling pretty good.
That is correct. So our first map of the night, of course, for this best of 3 will be Odyssey. So we're starting things out on Odyssey. We'll hit Abyssal Reef and Ascension to Ire. That'll be our maps for this best of 3. Looks like the game is ready, so let's jump into game number 1 of this Protoss versus Protoss. Fly, better fly, Jinair, as we head into game number 1. To the bottom right in red is, of course, Deer, former Samsung Protoss. To the top left, his opponent, Stats, the Splice Protoss here, former KT Rolster.
Looking really focused now.
Yeah, no jokes.
No smiles, no jokes. Everything is all serious now. Especially as Reed Rapid Melton walks into the building. He doesn't have his headphones on yet. He can't hear us. I spotted him, though.
He's here. So let's see how this series plays out. Nexus first for Stats. So the Splice players today bringing in the crafty, unusual builds for the matchups. Greed, the name of the game in game 1 for both of them. The hidden third hatchery for Solar, and now for Stats, the Nexus first in Protoss versus Protoss. It really makes it difficult to deny scouts, but he does have the setup for a potential wall at the top of his ramp to stop that from happening. And we don't really see Protosses die with Nexus first to timing attacks, but it makes it difficult to defend double Adept Harass, for example, which we've seen quite a few times in this matchup over the last few months in Legacy of the Void. And scouting this early is going to be the most important thing, something that Biel failed to do in the ZVZ, which led to his demise.
Yeah, maybe Stats reading the scouting patterns of Deer, and perhaps Deer doesn't scout all too often or too early. You see, he does go for a later scout here with this probe, and he will eventually get this information, but very curious to see what will be his response to it. I mean, right now, of course, he is going to start with just the 2 Adepts and the Mothership Core. He definitely, if he wanted to get really frisky, he could try to put down some pylons, perhaps, and try to break the front with that Mothership Core, but it doesn't look like he wants to do that. Just going to walk away, float away with that 1 probe, going
like he
to
wants
put
to
down a pylon.
He could, this doesn't even necessarily have to be a Stargate. This could also be a robotics
gateway.
Or a gateway.
Yeah.
He could do triple gate stalker pressure, and with the 2 stalkers being added right now, it starts to look like that is what it's going to be.
Stats on the scout, though. Perhaps he saw the weird kind of, okay, he's going to walk right into this, and it is a Stargate, in fact.
Oh, it doesn't check the right location, though. It goes up to the top right. There's going to be a gateway with it, so could it even be just an Oracle attack here? Could be Void Rays. There's a lot of different ways. You make a Void Ray, you can crush the defense that's Stalker base. If you make an Oracle, you harass the main base, force units to go up into the main. Now, he does see this. It isn't necessarily going to save him. No wall here for these Adepts. Oh, gets the probe there just in time, though. Very important.
Oh, and he shaded, too. Looks
Yeah,
like he wants to go for some probes. Yeah, and the Mothership Core out of position. No overcharge just yet. Shade is already happening, and 2 more Stalkers from Deer are making their way across the map.
Oh, man, this could be rough. He needs to make sure he does not lose that Mothership Core to the Stalkers. Okay, Stalkers looking to unpower this. They will get it, but another pylon finishes, so insignificant at the end of the day.
They're attacking the pylon. They're just dying to the Stalkers.
Yeah,
he gave up a Stalker.
Not even overcharging here either. Doesn't have the energy, it looks like, just trying to buy time. This is looking disastrous for Stats now, as Deer is just microing his heart out right now. 3rd Stalker will join, but the Oracle is about to pop out too. And I'm not 100% sure if those are Stalkers or Adepts coming across the map. I think Adepts.
Warp Gate is done. There is the Warp in right next to the gateway, and all of a sudden, here comes the Oracle going straight to the main. Down goes that Mothership Core. Does get that final overcharge.
Yeah, but there's nothing here.
Look at his main. There's nothing.
There's nothing here, and that might just be it. Will eventually deal with this attack. He has 2 Nexi, mind you.
Oh,
so
micro it, please.
He's microing over here. He wants to get this warp-in point complete. No probes mining at this base.
He's out of energy. But, I mean, Stats, he's down on Stalkers now even. And the second that Gateway gets powered up again, I think this might just be lights out.
Ooh, shoots the probe for 1 second. That might cause him to lose that Stalker. Oh, good micro here by Stats. And Deer with the overextension. Good micro by Stats. Deer perhaps not looking, but here's the triple warp in. And now he outnumbers him even more. The Oracle soon to have enough energy to turn back on. Just a few more seconds on that.
Mothership Core will pop out here. And you can see the Oracle is forced away. No overcharge used dead, it doesn't look like.
A good micro here from both players. Deer actually really focusing on his control this time.
Yeah, wait for more warp-ins here and then go for the attack. In comes the Oracle, will force that overcharge.
Unfortunately, at the wrong location, he doesn't micro the Oracle. If he had forced it in the main base, it would have been more useful. Can have another Oracle coming out now. It's going to hit the main base, and there's just not enough units here. He has to have all Stalkers here. Grabs another probe. 1 Stalker is going to be all he has to defend. He's got the weakened Stalkers here as well.
Yeah, and Stats, he's just not going to have an economy to continue microing in Stalkers. I mean, he's trying to make another gateway here, but down to 13 probes now, and I mean, he's going to have to make a really tough choice. Does he warp in a couple more Stalkers, or does he get his economy back online? But I think it just might be too late. Deer with a totally fine 23 probe economy back at home, even has enough minerals for a Nexus if he wanted to go for it.
And he's got a probe there just for that transition, sitting down there at the natural. So this is just the better concave here. Forces the overcharge, then walks away. Doesn't lose a single Stalker during this exchange. Zealot's being warped in, as you say, because he just can't afford the Stalkers. More warp-ins here. I think this is finally going to be it. The Nexus is made during this, and GG. Deer scouts out the Nexus first, goes for the punish play with the proxy Oracle with Gateway, and there's just not enough units to defend there. Was a pretty tight push, though. I mean, he didn't necessarily look like he was going to take it at the beginning. There was a few control mistakes on the Oracle, but eventually the economy, the kills he got on the Oracle was enough to win him out, and this is one reason why you don't see Nexus first all too often. Talk about how usually when you go Nexus first, you get punched, you lose a few probes, you don't die straight up. But when you take the most extreme response, as we saw Deer do there with a proxy gateway and the oracles coming out, when you take that extreme approach and the control is good out of the attacking player, sometimes you do just end up dying.
Yeah, Stats going with the risky build on Odyssey. Perhaps he wasn't expecting any kind of scout, or maybe he had a plan for if it was just the Adept scout. But Deer, I really like his response, and that's sometimes what happens when you do take that greedy build. I mean, there were some mistakes that were made over the course of it. You know, some overcharges, no pylon in the main to deal with the Oracle that followed up. So, I mean, I was liking Stats' chances coming into this one, but after that build, I'm not as confident as I once was.
Well, he took a greedy build. His teammate did too. He didn't get punished. Stats, he got found out, got scouted, he was exposed, and now we're going to Abyssal Reap, another long rush distance map-ish, you know, more than Odyssey even, I would say. And we'll see if Deer can close this one out 2-0, or if Stats is going to bring us to a Game 3. So we're headed into game number 2. Down here to the bottom right in red, up 1-0. It is Deer. And his opponent to the top left. In blue, it is Stats. Took the greedy Nexus first, paid for it in game 1. See if he can recover now.
He was saying something about his hands. Maybe they weren't listening to them. Maybe they were cold. And Deer told him to freeze, I think. So I like the tenacity out of Deer.
And I got that lobby chat. Valdez giving the updates.
I got this Observer PC.
Yeah.
I know what's going on. I see everything.
He sees it all. Well, shockingly, we'll not have a Nexus first this time. And we'll head into a more normal game now. So he watched a movie in the day and then came to watch SSL in the night. I didn't see what the end of the sign said, but that was the first part of
Probably saw not Superman, Spider-Man. It's all the rage nowadays. Everybody's going to watch it.
I'm not going to.
I don't really like superhero movies.
Yeah. Did you see Avengers 7? No, I didn't either.
No.
I'm sure
the one that a lot of people recommended to me was Logan. And they were like, oh, even if you don't like superhero movies, you're going to like it. And I actually did like one of the X-Men movies. I think it was Days of Future Past. That one was pretty good. Yeah, that was on like year 12 of only superhero movies being released, like S-tier budget-wise. And like I was okay with it back then, but now we're on like year 20 of this, and I feels like... Yeah, we're struggling. We're struggling.
I wish someone would just make an original movie. That'd be cool.
Twilight, perhaps? That's like a weird location for a Stargate.
I think it's still going to be a Stargate, but it's making 2 Stalkers right now, actually. It could be a Twilight Council. By the way, Valdez is not saying he thinks Twilight is an original movie. So, I'm not sure who this is, to be honest.
We just like put the camera on this guy. I don't really know why.
It might be.
It is a Twilight.
Okay, it is.
Twilight is a terrible movie, but this is Twilight.
It might be the old player coach for Samsung. He looks similar to that, so that might be who that is since Deer is playing. But anyways, so he looks to be a Dark Shrine. He's going to use Stalkers to try to intercept the
In person, he looks like Squirtle, actually.
Oh, it is Squirtle.
I was right.
Damn, good call.
He looks totally different, but actually when I saw him on camera, I didn't recognize him. But then when I looked at him in person, I realized that's kind of freaky. Did he go to the Army and come back?
I believe so.
That must have been what happened.
Hope he rejoins being a pro gamer because he gave us some of the best games of all time. Well, the Dark Shrine is started now. Obviously, Deer doesn't know about this and has no detection whatsoever. and is simply expanding behind this. No Stargate either, so can't even try to use Oracle detection. If he doesn't get wind of this may just simply be a build order loss, a rare one in this matchup. It used to happen a lot more in the past, but so rare nowadays. Ever since, you know, more scouting options were introduced for proxies, don't usually get away with this. And everyone always expects there's a chance for proxies, so they usually check really heavily. Speaking of which, looks like Deer is going to send units around to the left side. Unless he's simply just trying to hide them, because he is going for an aggressive warp in. So it looks like this is just him hiding his units. He's not looking for anything. It's the triple warp in here. Slow Stalker warp in fact. And he wants to hit this hard, but the DTs, all he has to do is warp in one for the defense and one for the attack, and Deer is going to find himself in trouble. He does start the Robo. That's actually Stats'
Stats,
Robo. Never mind.
With the Robo. So Stats, he's just holding on. He's got to warp in some DTs. They're ready. Should be the first one at home, second one over back there. He does have an overcharge too. Yeah. There's the first D, does come on out.
And he's not targeting the mothership core, interestingly, so it's going to survive here. The pylons come up too.
I don't think Deer recognizes this. Still no robotics facility coming down. The DT is getting a ton of damage done. Finally he does,
he
but
knows now.
the second DT is already going into his base.
Yeah, and all he has to do is target down the pylon. If he makes a second DT and sends it over, he can do that. No one ever does that, though, in this matchup. They just kill probes, and that's what we're going to see a lot of here. Trying to micro his Stalkers to kill more workers. He does have the higher worker kill advantage right now, but he's going to lose everything here. Mothership Core, GG. Mothership Core is not even going to go down, and that is going to a game 3. That's
the quick
how it happens.
clapback from Stats saying, okay, I got another build up my sleeve. And, man, we're having all the wonky builds nowadays in SSL. SOS bringing out his weird proxies, and both the Splice players bringing out some funky builds.
Yeah, I mean...
getting some stinky cheese up in here. I mean, I know it is summer, but this is really pretty cool.
Not really... I mean, I guess this is just one way to approach this the best of 3. That's what the Stats players, or sorry, the Splice players are running tonight, is trying to cheese their way in. I wouldn't really call the third base hatchery a cheese. The hidden hatchery at the bottom right that we saw in Game 1 of the first series a cheese necessarily, but some people would go as far as call it eco cheese. It was greedy. He got away with it. Stats goes for the Nexus first as well. Greedy, doesn't get away with it, makes the DTs happen, but in game number 3, perhaps he's going to have to play a little bit more standard as we head into Ascension of Ire for our final map.
There's that one random scream at the end of the Stats cheer.
Bringing the hype here. His opponent, of course, to the bottom right is Deer in red. And his, as you said, the loud fan for this guy in blue, Stats. And with how this series has started, it feels almost like old school Wings of Liberty Press where you just don't know what's going to happen. I wouldn't say it's rock, paper, scissors like it was back then, but you choose ability and you get found out or you don't. It's kind of how both series have been going tonight. And sure, there were some control mistakes from Biel in the Game 2 between him and Solar, but a lot of the other victory conditions here have really just been about information and punish plays or none. So let's see if Stats wants to just take a Nexus this game at a normal timing, build some normal tech, or if we're going to see something crazy here for game number 3. 3 for 3, the weird build. There's going to be double gateway openings for both players, so that in itself is pretty discouraging towards anything absolutely off the wall.
I wonder if Deer's build would have worked if Stats was just playing a normal game. It's kind of the question I'm asking myself now. It's kind of hard to, think about it because obviously the Dark Shrine just straight up counters that kind of build. But say he goes for a Stargate instead, you just get something at home. You keep that Mothership Core at home to deal with that with some overcharges, and then you just go up to the base. If you can snipe the Mothership Core, maybe you just win that game, and Deer's out of this 1-2-0. But as you said, Stats with the weird build does take the victory. It looks like this time things are just going to be pretty standard. There's no proxies, no weirdness so far.
Yep, Scouts coming out for Deer now. That same delayed timing that we saw initially. Looking for him, no Nexus. And actually goes into the main base, sees the double gateways. And the chrono of Warp Gate Research. It is going to be Stalkers versus Adepts. And Stats will take the faster robotics facility actually in main. And it's not going to be with a Nexus expansion at all or anything like that. Just going to be, I say in main, but I mean at the back of his main. He's clearly trying to hide this. Nowhere else he could put it besides the main, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Wonder what he's going to be doing with that. I mean, this is extremely fast. Ascension to Ire, rather, another big two-player map that can be hard to get the Scouts down. You can see Deer is attempting to get Scouts with his Adepts, whereas Stats has just gone the defensive build with the Stalkers. The body block, though, that was pretty cool.
Looks like he's just going to use this to defend his natural. Maybe he gets an Immortal first because he's afraid that Deer might do some more Stalker shenaniganry here, because that was his demise both games. Yeah, skips Observer, goes into the Immortal, and he's going to just try to beef up his Immortal count early. So we see Deer now adding his own Robo.
Yeah.
Add the faster Nexus, obviously.
Slower Nexus, but earlier Immortals definitely is going to make your composition pretty nice, as, you know, essentially with the 2-base and even 3-base economy, you're just going to be consistently producing out of that robotics facility. So it's not like, you know, having a later Nexus means that you won't have the economy to consistently produce. So usually getting it earlier means you will have more robotic stuff. I kind of explained that in a complicated way.
But, a bit roundabout, but I think the meaning is clear.
He will have more Immortals because they're only going to be making one robotics facility for now.
Well, he makes one Immortal and then goes into the Prism, so had he continued Immortal production, what you say would be very much true. It's still going to be for the time being as Deer makes an Observer, but he definitely wants to drop and cut off with these sentries the bases. So to do like a sentry drop, it looks like, to try to cut the units in half, and then perhaps warp in a few units to be a little bit more aggressive.
Please do it, Stats.
At least that's what I thought he's going to do. It looks like he's just going to walk across the map with this Prism. So just one hyper-fast Immortal, and he will still have the Immortal lead, as you were talking about. So one Immortal versus none. Perhaps he gets a really good trade, continues to warp in, and finds massive amounts of damage here.
I mean, on this map, too, I think you can just kind of elevator into the main, and there are no buildings for Deer on the left side. That would be more of the kind of crazy attack.
Looks like that's what he's going to do with the extended pickup range, man. This is all I did through the beginning of Legacy of the Void beta until release, is just to elevate. But he is going to come to the attack the natural. The sentries get more value here.
The Warp Prism is huge for the Immortal because you can micro it in and out. You know, just use it, bring it to the back of your army, and generally the Immortal is not good for its positioning.
Well, the Sentry actually gets picked off here. Actually, both of them. So.
Yeah.
Losing a lot of that, trying to burst down these pylons, though. Not targeting the Mothership Core, interestingly enough, but he just has too many units here. He's going to just use that Prism for the micro. The Immortal is not actually able to kill the Immortal of Stats. The Deer Immortal doesn't find it, but we'll have to retreat now and wait for another warp in. He's killed so many probes, though. Actually takes a only 2 worker deficit as he stopped making probes for this attack. 12 probes killed in total. Deer's
about to have a second Immortal, though, which is going to make things a lot better. Barrier used and hot pickup in the back, and Deer's Immortal still safe.
And he's going to get that Prism, I think. It's so low. Down it goes. So even though the pylon finishes here, not that useful at the end of the day. Just waiting for that barrier to come off cooldown, keeping it in the main, or sorry, in the Prism, while it does get its cooldown back. We'll force the cooldown here on Deer's barrier.
Thinking about a drop, trying to get cheeky here.
Trying to pick off some Stalkers, it looks like. Trying to bait these Stalkers to kill the Prism and then kill the Stalkers, but this looks to be held.
Yeah, it's a very technical build because it's hard. You go into phase mode, and it's a lot harder to micro that Warp Prism back into a good spot, but if you don't keep them in phase mode, then you're not going to get those warp-ins, and it's a lot easier to handle when you're just defending.
Deer got the defensive blink here because he was thinking maybe this is going to go for a longer fight. I want to be able to shut down that Prism. I want to be able to micro more. He has the blink, doesn't need it to defend, but now can use it aggressively. He has +1 completed and +2 started before the Forge is even done for stats. So Deer in a really good place. Is going to go for the follow-up scout with the Observer. The stats does have the Disruptor tech faster, but you have to really like Deer's position now with how cost-efficient that hold was. Going to grab this Stalker here. I don't think he used Blink. No, he did not, so he's going to get a double.
Definitely unfortunate for stats. He is getting this Warp Prism speed with some disruptors, so delayed disruptor drops could definitely be nice.
With the blink out already, though, it feels like this is another thing that Deer had already predicted and prepared for. Adds 4 gateways as soon as he sees this Nexus, wants to be more aggressive, wants to have more blink stalkers. And he's going to have the +2 as well. Remember, he has the Warp Prism with this, so it's not like he is only limited by the units he has right now. He can have much more when those gateways finish.
We could see some sick micro against the Disruptor by the Warp Prism. Just wait until the shot is about to go off and then just lift the units that are in range of that shot right into the Warp Prism at the last second.
Yeah, and he has Blink too, so that makes this all a lot easier. It's going to be the first Disruptor used for Harass, though, in the mineral line. And Deer not responding very quickly there, ends up losing several probes. Looking for the Immortal pickoff, though, which might even be more significant. Does not quite get it.
Lives. That's pretty unfortunate. I would have at least sacrificed 1 or 2 Stalkers to go in there and get it, but either way, trying to be more defensive. Stats does need to get back home with this Disruptor or just sack this third. He's got double overcharge, but he is definitely behind on this army supply. Look at that massive army here for Deer.
Once these wear off, I really worry for him. Now the micro.
Ooh, that was a big hit.
Micro coming in, but still not good enough to save him. Regardless here, this is the bigger story. As you said, if he wins this fight, he may just win the game off this push. Crushes the Immortals here. So many sentries for displacement, as well as the Guardian Shield. Mothership Core goes down. Didn't have enough for another overcharge. He fights out of range of it. The Prism is still alive down there. Needs to bring it over here to make sure he can reinforce. Kills the Nexus. It looks like Stats is just going to try to counterattack, but I don't think he has enough to defend back at home. Where's that Prism?
He's got the miracle hit with this Disruptor. That's basically the only chance. I mean, Deer just has to like take his hands off the keyboard here. Here we go, coming in from behind, double Archon, and what's he gonna do?
Blinks on it, gets a decent shot, the best he could have hoped for, but it's just not enough here, Valdez.
He's gonna try to pull the probes, and he does have charge lots, but consistent warp-ins and a huge bank for Deer. I think that's just gonna do it.
Yeah, definitely will. Trying to play greedy again here, trying to break the meta is Stats with this really aggressive timing attack. Didn't get the cost-efficient trades he was looking for. Good micro, cool strategy, but not good enough. GG. Deer is going to take the 2-1 victory here in a pretty interesting PvP, I would say.
Yeah, definitely a cool attack by Stats, but at the end of it all, did not work out. Would have liked to see him try to elevate her into the main instead of just attacking the front, where obviously Deer was going to be ready with those overcharges. After that didn't really work, as you said, he transitioned into another pretty greedy kind of harass strategy, whereas Deer was just like, no, I'm going to make a bunch of stuff and try to kill you. And even on top of that, he's getting a third base, Stats was. So definitely a very hard hold, and
Deer had the
wasn't
better,
possible.
He had the better upgrades, and he had the longer mining, so even though he lost a lot of probes there, the lead in mining that he had and the defensive engages he took, the more cost-efficient engages he took, led him to have more army anyways. When you couple that with the fact that he tried to take a third base and go for the Disruptor harass, Stats played greedy up until the end. He was hoping that the Disruptor tech would force Deer to stay back and allow him to get a larger army, hold on to that third base, but it was just not meant to be.
Yeah, so Deer, I almost wish I had more faith in this guy before these matches to take place, but this guy is on a roll. He's taken 2 wins in a row. He took out Maru, now he's taken out Stats. And his next opponent is going to be Classic, which he definitely, after this series, has a decent chance against.
Absolutely. His PvP style seems very flexible. But guys, our next matchup is going to be Dark versus Hero, a ZVP. We're going to very short commercial break, just a few minutes, and then we come back. We'll have the ZVPs, so we'll see you then.